What if I told you that the vibrant, colorful world you see isn't really out there at all? What if it's all being created, right now, inside your head? Today, we're going to dive into the incredible science of color vision and find out how our brains literally paint the world around us.
So let's start with something simple. Why does a strawberry look red? I mean, it seems obvious, right? You'd think that redness is just part of the strawberry. But the truth? It is so much more fascinating than that. The real magic isn't in the fruit. It's happening inside your eyes and your brain. It's this complex dance of light and biology.
So, how does this amazing biological machine actually work? Well, it all comes down to 3 tiny microscopic filters inside our eyes. Let's pull back the curtain and see how they build our entire visual world from scratch. Okay, so the core concept here is something called trichromatic vision. Now that sounds pretty technical, but all it really means is that our entire rich experience of color is built from the signals of just 3 types of special cells in the back of our eyes. Just 3! And these special cells are our color receptors. They're called cone cells. You can think of them like the pixels in a digital camera, where each type is tuned to a different wavelength, or color of light. So we have S cones for short wavelengths, which is blue light, M cones for medium green wavelengths, and L cones for long red wavelengths. And here's the absolute key to all of this. Our cone cells, they only send raw data. They're just telling the brain how much red, green, or blue light they're seeing. It's our brain that's the master artist, taking these super simple signals and mixing them together to create every single color we can imagine, from deep purples to bright oranges.
Of course, the instructions for this whole system are written in our DNA. And here's a really crucial detail. The genes for our red and green cones are found on the X chromosome. The blue cone gene, that's on a completely different chromosome. And this little genetic fact is the key to understanding why some of us see color a little differently.
So, what happens if one of those 3 filters isn't working quite right? Or what if it's missing altogether? Well, that leads to what most people call color blindness, but a much more accurate term is color vision deficiency. And you know what? It's surprisingly common. Because those red and green cone genes are on the X chromosome, and men only have one of those, about 8% of all males have some kind of red-green color vision deficiency. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 1 in 12 guys. All right, let's break down the most common types. If someone is missing their red L cones, that's called protanopia. For them, reds can look kind of dark and washed out. If the green M cones are absent, that's deuteranopia, which makes it tough to tell reds and greens apart. And then there's the rarest one, tritanopia, which is when the blue S cones are missing. Now, it's really important to know this isn't always an all-or-nothing thing. Many people have what's called an anomaly, which means the cone is there, it's just that its sensitivity to color is a little off. So they still see color, but some shades are just harder to distinguish. And since women have 2 X chromosomes, they have a genetic backup, which is why these deficiencies are way less common for them, only about 0.5%. So how do we actually figure all this out? How can we map these different ways of seeing the world? This brings us to the really clever tools that have been designed to test the limits of our color vision. I am almost positive you've seen this before. It's an Ishihara plate, right? The famous dot test for red-green color issues. Someone with typical vision sees a number hidden inside all those dots. But someone with a deficiency, well, they might see a totally different number, or maybe nothing at all. But that dot test is just one tool in the toolbox. For more moderate issues, there's the D15 test, where you have to sort a bunch of colored caps. The HRR plates are great because they can spot blue-yellow issues, not just red-green. And then, for finding the absolute tiniest differences in perception, there's the super detailed Farnsworth-Munsell 100 hue test. But here's one little detail that is absolutely critical. None of these tests work right without proper lighting. The colors we see can change dramatically depending on the light source, so every single clinical test has to be done under a special, standardized, daylight equivalent lamp to make sure the results are actually accurate. Okay, on to our final section, and honestly, this is where things get really fascinating. Up until now, we've talked about the genetic wiring you're born with, but it turns out your color vision can also be a powerful, real-time indicator of your overall health. So let me just pose this question. What if you've had totally normal color vision your whole life, and then you start to notice a change? This is something you should definitely pay attention to. These are called acquired deficiencies, and unlike the genetic kind, these changes are often a symptom,
like a warning light from your body telling you that there might be some underlying disease affecting your eye, your optic nerve, or maybe even your brain. And here is the truly incredible part. The type of color vision you lose can give doctors a massive clue about where the problem is. So issues with the optic nerve, that's the cable connecting your eye to your brain, they often cause a loss in red-green perception. But diseases inside the retina itself, those more commonly cause a loss of blue-yellow vision.
Doctors can use this insight in a really simple test. They might just ask a patient to look at a bright red object with each eye, one at a time, and ask if the color looks faded or less vibrant in one of them. This is called red desaturation, and it can be a really early warning sign of a problem with the optic nerve.
So we're left with this pretty amazing thought. The rich, beautiful world you see is a constant creation of your eyes and your brain. And a subtle shift in that perception, just a little change in how you see a single color, could actually be a hidden message about your health. It certainly makes you see that red strawberry in a whole new light, doesn't it? Thanks for tuning in.